And then I think I almost drew the line when I saw him banging his mom. Like, I think I said, Damon, you gotta go, man. I hated Damon's arc. Every time we went to Harrenhal, he's tripping balls.
And this season was definitely juicy with just the plot thickening and dragons.
And more dragons.
Rhaenyra
is my favorite character, and she went through so much this season. Emma Darcy was so good at portraying these feelings without saying any words.
Whole turning point of the whole series, the Battle of Rook's Rest, seeing two dragons on opposing sides going at each other, just the devastation, and seeing this proud knight and warrior, Sir Christian Cole, basically being like, I ain't shit up against these dragons.
Sea Smoke. Like, he was alone the whole time. Nobody's gonna choose me. I'm choosing my rider. And
Scares
he's like,
the shit out of him.
Scares the absolute shit out of him. Was like, oh yeah, you'll do. I smell the Velaryon on you. My final thoughts are, I really enjoyed this season. Better than season 1 for me. And I would give it...
Welcome everybody to the season 2 finale review of House of the Dragon. It is I, HG3 Cosplay, aka Lord Varys, and with me I have Her Royal Highness. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Your Highness.
Crispr Cos here, aka Daenerys Targaryen, first of her name, Queen of the Andals, Breaker of Chains. You know the rest.
That's a lot of names.
I've done a lot. And I'm way younger than you, so...
Ouch, that's an attack. All right, speaking of attacks on family, we're going to go right into it. What was your overall impression of this second season of House of the Dragon?
I really liked this season. I know a lot of people did it, but I really liked that we got into more of the politics of Westeros at that time. And so, yeah, it's going to be slower, but we got so many more dragons, and I was so excited. But yeah, I really liked it. I think I might have liked this season more than the first season, by being honest.
No, I definitely liked the pacing of this second season more. We had what, 2 time jumps in the first season, and then recast of the characters, so that was a little confusing.
Yeah.
But so that was nice just to have like same cast, same timeline for this whole second season, and this season was definitely juicy with just the plot thickening and dragons.
And more dragons.
And that was that. I wasn't there for the plot. I was there for the dragons.
Same.
But speaking of plot, what were some key plot points that you loved from this season?
I think that my favorite plot, and it probably might have been the saddest plot, was getting to see more of the connection between Meleys and Rhaenys.
Oh.
And seeing her actually, go into battle. She's doing this for her queen, and her and Meleys are just so bonded to each other, and it was so sad. It was so sad when
Queen who never was.
Yeah, when she fell, and I think that was it was the saddest, but it was my favorite because we actually now got to see dragons in action. We saw Vhagar, we saw Sunfire, sweet little puppy Sunfire, and then we got to see Meleys in action, and it was an intense.
Because we got like a little bit of dragon on dragon action in the original Game of Thrones, but that was more like the undead dragon versus the regular dragon.
Yeah.
And it was very brief though, because I feel like they just did not have the budget to do what they tried to do in this season. And
yeah.
Oh my gosh, those dragon fight was truly, as I say, the dance of the dragons.
Yes, 100%. And you kind of see the difference in, experience, because you see these two young dragon riders are just Dracarys, let me burn everything.
Fireball.
But then you have Rhaenys, and instead of telling Meleys to burn or fire Dracarys, she's like, attack. She's like, Angos Meleys, and that's attack them, because that's like,
do your thing.
Yeah, like attack the dragons, because I really believe that she didn't want to kill her family, because at the end of the day, these are her nephews.
Oh yeah,
these are nephews.
For sure.
Yeah, or then we're cousins, second cousins. Anyway, they're family,
the whole family tree is interlocked, so it's
It's a
hard. You got
circle.
uncle daddies, and it's hard to keep track of who's a cousin and a nephew, and it's
But
both
yeah,
actually. So both
yeah,
answers are
actually.
correct.
But yeah, so at the end of the day, they're her family, and I don't think she wanted to be a kinslayer like our favorite one-eyed Targaryen, Aemon.
Favorite Cyclops. Yeah.
Our favorite Cyclops. So that was my favorite scene, or my favorite like plot of
So
the
just
season.
kind of seeing her rise up to be like the protector servant.
Yes, and how she
Protector of
had
the
the
realm.
chance to flee, but she's like, I need to finish this, or I need to at least give them a fighting chance after she falls. Like she was so ready.
Because
to
like at
give
that
it her
point, like
all.
said, like she's lost everything in her on her side of the family.
Oh,
So it's
yep.
just like, why not? Like let's go for it.
Hmm.
As much as I love the royal family, it's one of my favorite plots or story arcs that I saw throughout this season, and I can't wait to see more of it in the third season, which has already been confirmed. They haven't released the release date yet, but for sure probably end of 2025, 2026 maybe, most likely. But we got to see the life of the commoners in this season, where it's like how they basically fall. They get to feel the consequences of the royals' decisions and how their actions, whether good or bad. And Hugh, who is a Targaryen, which we find out in the later season, and he's kept that hidden for so long, and seeing him like just fight for everything for his family, to find food, find medicine, and as much as his wife's against it, he goes the distance and becomes a knight of the realm and gets his own dragon. And that was just so cool to see with that actor, who I've seen in so many other series, and I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah, no, and I love his story because, like you said, he was fighting to keep his family alive, and then he loses his daughter. And at this point, I think he's on like he wants to avenge his daughter, because the Greens did that. The Greens closed the ports, the Greens closed the gates. Like he has nothing. I mean, he has his wife, but he's fighting to avenge what the Greens did to his family.
Especially
And
after
he gets a
Aegon
dragon
promised
out of it.
all
Yeah.
of this to him, and it's just like, yeah, you're going down now, buddy.
Exactly.
So we talked about some of our favorite plot points and story arcs. So the main characters obviously are, Alicent and Rhaenyra, and then some would even debate, Daemon's also a main character. What were your favorite character developments with these characters?
Well, I'm just gonna get it out there. I hated Daemon's arc.
Okay, that was my favorite actually, but okay.
No, it's just like every time we went to Harrenhal, he's tripping balls. Like he's seeing his brother, he's seeing young Rhaenyra, he's killing young Rhaenyra. Like this man had no peace at Harrenhal, and it's just like every time I was like, oh my god, here we go again. He's gonna see his dead brother. And then I think I almost drew the line when I saw him banging his mom. Like, I think I said, Daemon, you gotta go, man. Come on.
You gotta get out of there,
You're
bro.
done. Like, Caraxes doesn't want to see that shit. Caraxes probably knows what you're seeing. And so, Caraxes wants out. He just wants to go back to his dragon wife, Syrax.
Yes,
so
100%.
so every time Daemon, and I get it. It was really cool at the very end when we see kind of like all of what we see, that he's kind of like a dreamer in a sense, or he sees what the prophecy that what's his face Viserys was talking about before he died. I did like that. We got a little bit of payoff, and it kind of redeemed the entire season of him just tripping balls at Harrenhal. But
I know you want to talk about your girl Renee. Talk about Ray.
Ray. Oh, yes. Okay, so yes, Rhaenyra is my favorite character, and she went through so much this season. Like, she said maybe one line in that first episode, but she carried it. The grief from the panic of like trying to find, not panic, the sorrow of like losing hope that she's not going to find Luke's body, she's not going to find Arax. And then when she finally does, like, Emma Darcy was so good at portraying these feelings without saying any words.
Oh yeah.
And
It's one thing to
I
hear like you've lost your child, but then to just see it, it's like
to
it's a real
see
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a great job. And going from that to this like badass queen in the last season, ready to jump on Cyrax and fight. Visenya is one of her idols that she wants to be now that she's a queen. I liked that development. Like she's grieving her son, and even through her grief, she didn't. She was trying to find a peaceful way through this whole war so that we don't
Oh yeah.
get to bloodshed. She was trying every avenue she could, and not a lot of like rulers would do that. And you
No.
really see that she's trying to avoid war as much as possible
She's
until
trying
it
to do what
finally
her father wanted her to do.
exactly. And I commend her because like she just lost her son to her brother, her half brother.
Yeah.
And like, yes, she said she wanted Aemon Targaryen, but like she didn't, aside from that, she didn't want to shed any other blood. She just wanted a son for a son.
No.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. So I love her character as far as like she's good. She doesn't want all this needless bloodshed,
Oh yeah, no.
even after
She was-
everything.
Like that amazing monologue she has with Jace before Rhaenys goes into battle. It's like, we're protectors of the realm. It's our duty to, protect and serve the people, and not just go into battle and just kill people aimlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she had an amazing arc. Just so much stuff that she was dealing with. Like if her uncle hubby was gonna betray her the whole time, or just do his own thing and make his own claim to the throne. If her own council was gonna betray her, if she could trust her new advisor, which literally like took the claim from the throne from her, and then having to confront Alicent the whole time and be like, wait, you're telling me you didn't know about the story of Ice and Fire? Like you didn't know that was all a mistake? Like, okay. Like her journey was just wild throughout this whole season.
Mm-hmm. And in that same vein with Alicent, speaking of,
Oh yeah.
like she really got hit with a reality check because she thought that she could usurp Rhaenyra's throne, and then while Aegon is recovering from his injuries, she thought she could take over she could rule the realm. And when the council was like, "No, you're a woman. Why would we let you?"
Huge slap in the face.
Huge like reality check that she would never. She like Rhaenys said in the last season, like has a window.
Yep.
A window, a cage with a window in this world because she's a woman, and all of the men around her are pieces of shit. So
it was as much as we hated her in the first season and a majority of the second season, like I like to think she had a good like I'm done moment, especially in the finale. Just like I've self-reflected on this didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, and now I just want to end it the most peaceful way we can without bloodshed. Like, do what you got to do. And then she had to make that choice. It was like, yeah, you can son for a son, like let's go for it. And like that scene was just so intense between them. Like I can't imagine like the tension that was on set while filming that. And then just to kind of go backwards, bookend, the whole arc with Daemon was just as annoying as the tripping balls was barking at the moon every night, as he would say. It was so cool, like seeing like him just so close-minded with anything supernatural. And then the witch of the castle there, her name escapes me at this point.
Alice Rivers.
Yes, Alice Rivers. Thank you. Just slowly like coaxing him, like is she drugging him? Like, what's she gonna do? Is she like gonna turn on him? Is she gonna kill him? And she was just truly just trying to open his mind to things, and then show him that vision and dream of like how small of a part his life is in the whole grand scheme of things. And I loved that little tie-in to the original Game of Thrones series with that vision, getting to see the Song of Ice and Fire, and then getting to see Dany come out of the flames with the dragons. It was just like I teared up. It was just like, that's amazing, like beautiful way to tie it in.
Same.
And then seeing him struggle to just get his own claim before he had that vision, just like with the Riverland men, and like having to like send one of them to do like atrocities, and then learning like, hey, this isn't the way to gain the trust of people. Fear isn't the way to go, which we've learned in previous seasons with Game of Thrones. Like, fear was a huge tactic with a lot of rulers.
Yeah.
And then seeing him come and rally up all these men and then bow before his niece wife and be like, "This, you're our queen." Is she not? Is she not? I'm sorry, his queen. I'll just say that his queen. And just rally all the men behind her. And I just love the little moment that he has. She's like, "If you ever leave me again, like,
at your peril."
Yeah, at your peril. He's like, "I can't. Like, I've already tried." And to me, that was just a great moment. And to me, those three characters really carried the show.
Yeah, 100%.
In the fashion of most Max shows. Sorry, can't call it HBO anymore. It's Max
Watch
now.
it.
I know. I'm gonna get canceled. Max has huge budgets for their shows, and this one was nothing short of a huge production. And to me, I feel like you could really see it with the visuals of the show and the production quality. What were some elements that stood out to you?
The dragons. All of the dragons. It was because we got different types of dragons, like Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion from the original series. They all look the same because they're all siblings. They've got the same spiky horns, all this stuff. And then in this show, we got different kinds. I mean, you have Vhagar, who doesn't have any horns, and then you've got
She's
Syrax.
all bald and old.
She's all bald and old, Granny Vhagar. And then you got Syrax that has a more like narrow face. Caraxes with his like super long neck, and it was just so cool to see how they, and they looked good to me. They looked so good, all of them. And it was just, and the fact that they gave them these personalities. I low-key wish they didn't give them personalities, because now we have to see them fight each other. Like, one of my favorite dragon moments was, like, I hate Aegon. See Sunfire coming out, and he's like a little puppy. He was so happy to see Aegon, and he could probably feel that Aegon was having just the shittiest of days. And he goes and he bumps him, and that gets a smile out of Aegon. And so it's seeing not only the dragons come to life, but also their personalities, their individual personalities. Like, that was so cool to me. Because, like, the dragons looked really cool in Game of Thrones, but I feel like we didn't get really, like, personalities of these dragons.
Oh, no. And so, like, hats off to the animators that brought these dragons to life, not only just visually, but, like you said, with their emotions. It was beautifully done. I thought these sets were, as always with Game of Thrones, just amazing. They take you right into this world of Westeros. And then even when we went to Essos for a little bit, like, I love seeing the Pirate Kings and just how different it looks, from the east and the west, like, in the costume feels. Like, it was just amazing. I always loved the look of a good, like, armor set, and of course the weapons. Like, all of them were on point. Like, how Rhaenys' armor looked when she went into battle, how Sir Criston Cole looks when he's going into battle. What's the Hightower brothers' name? Like, all of them just have very unique styles for their realms, and just, that's one of my favorite elements of the show, is just how each armor and their looks are just so unique to where they're from, and they just, my hat's off to them.
Yeah.
And then of course the cinematography, like, the way they shot those dragon scenes were just so cool. Like, if you see the behind the scenes, like, they're riding like these giant like saddles, and they just have wind tunnels just blowing the hell out of them on these huge green screens, and then just having to move back and forth to rule with it. It's like, it was just so cool to see that, and then seeing the final product of it was just incredible.
Yes,
because, like, we saw like maybe just a few episodes in, like, in the last two seasons of Game of Thrones with Dany, and then even a little bit of Jon, like, riding the dragons. But like you said earlier, getting to see them actually fight and go back and forth and holding on for dear life, not falling off while you're in the middle of a battle, like, they pulled that off so well.
Yes. And, like, one of my favorite moments was when it's at Rook's Rest, and Aemon's waiting on top of Vhagar, for his cue.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets Vhagar up, but then he sees freaking Sunfire and Aegon flying over, and then he tells, Vhagar, like, wait, no, stop. And this poor old dragon probably just wants to rest. She's tired. And she just, like, boom, down back to the ground. She's like, all right, well, I'm gonna get a quick nap in. Like,
let me know when you're ready to wreck shit.
You gotta give me a minute to get back
just
up.
Give me a minute. I'm I'm an old lady.
But like that's an example of another example of like a personality of a dragon. Like, oh, okay, fine, let me get back down. You know. So. And Ed, another example.
Another one.
I don't know if we're gonna use this, but another example of the personality of like Mei Lee's when her neck was in Vagar's mouth, and she does that little look back to Rhaenys. It looked like she looked sad. She looked like, I'm so sorry, like I couldn't protect you, or I'm so sorry, like I failed. We're both going down. Like they had that moment, and you could see it in the dragon's eyes that it was heartbreaking. Like that's another good way that this crew, these animators, really brought the dragons to life.
Oh, absolutely. One other element I want to talk about is the cinematography this season, especially in this last episode. There was one shot that just sticks out to me, and they do this a few episodes each season now. They just do these masterful wide shots that just like tell a story within itself. Like when Rhaenyra comes to Harrenhal to check, it's like, what's going on? Like, is hubby with me or not? And brings in Sir Adam Hole. There's just this beautiful shot where she's like at the steps of the castle, dragon behind her, and oh gosh, see, I am terrible with the names of all these. There's so many names.
Sea Smoke?
No. Strong. No, Strong. No, is it Strong? The old man.
Simon Strong.
So when Simon Strong is looking down at her, it's just a beautiful visualization. It's like she's on the low ground at this point, and he's up top with this huge army, and he sent the Raven and everything. And I just loved that shot in particular. I'm going to try to throw it on the other screen here in a second, and just shots like that throughout this whole season, just like beautiful cinematography for me. I just feel like that had to be mentioned.
No, 100%. Like it was beautiful.
Speaking of beautiful things, let's talk about the themes and writings of this show. What were some of the major themes of the show that you loved?
Rhaenyra finding her power again in a world where all these men are trying to take it away from her. They're trying to, make decisions for her, even though she is the queen. We see her struggle in the beginning, with just sitting around because her advisors won't let her go anywhere. Because she is the crown. She is the symbol of the crown. And if you lose that, you lose all momentum. So I get it, but we see her kind of like come into her power. We see her struggling, and then we see her at the very end where she's now this queen she hops onto Syrax and she goes. Like she comes into her power. Yeah, she's like, I'm done being on the sidelines and watching all her family just die. So that was one of my favorite things about it. And also Jace kind of working through the fact that he's accepting the fact that he is a bastard. He is not the son of Laenor. He's still a Targaryen because of his mother, but he's coming to terms with the fact that he's a bastard, and then the fact that Rhaenyra gave the opportunity to these other bastards to get a dragon. My heart broke for him because he's like, what then distinguishes me from them? Why do I have a claim to the throne? How am I a Targaryen set apart from the rest of these men if you're letting other bastards claim dragons? Like he could fight his claim and say, I have a dragon, I am a Targaryen. But now other bastards have a dragon.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
And I get that, I do, but my heart broke for him and him coming, like I said, to terms with the fact he's a bastard, and now he's kind of lost of like, who am I, will the realm even accept me after her? So.
But I love how his support system always tells him, like, you're the prince, like you are the next in line, like that's what sets you apart.
Yeah. Yes.
There were so many beautiful moments, like in writing. We talked a little bit about the scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent finally at the end, just like putting all cards on the table, making a deal, talking about how like, they're going to label you as a traitor and everything. But one of my favorite scenes, and they kind of dive into it at the end of the episode, which is one of my favorite parts of this series. Like they do the inside look of each episode at the end. When Corlys talks with his son, his bastard son, and he kind of lets go. He's like, hey, I'm not going to take any advice from you. Like, so you can, I know you're here now, but where were you when I was literally starving on the streets, watching you bring your other son to my market? Like, that scene was just heartbreaking, but just so beautifully performed and written. And like, they talk about this in the deep dive, how, you know, he wouldn't dream of talking to his lord that way. But in this moment, it's like, you know, all bets are off. You don't get to give me advice like this anymore. Like, I'm serving you because I have to, not because, oh, I'm doing daddy a favor. And just his whole arc that season, along with his brother, who's, you know, inherited a dragon now as well. You can tell, like, his brother's, you know, all about, you know, like, I'm going to serve the realm and I'm happy to do it. We can tell his brother's just like, no, like, I just want to do my duty and then be done with it. Like, I'm not trying to make nice with the lords anymore. So that's one moment I want to mention for sure. And then, as much as we don't like this character, I loved the writing of Larys throughout this whole season, of just him trying to find his way into the royals and like, which route am I going to go? Is it with Alicent? Is it with Aegon? And then we see in the end, you know, he finally convinces Aegon, like, you know, we need to get out of here. Like, your brother is going to kill you, and I know what it's like to be a cripple.
Yeah. And let's talk about a little bit about Helaena. Like, she is the most, like, she doesn't deserve anything that happened to her. Like, Blood and Cheese was such a hard arc to watch because, like, she had to tell them which one was the boy, like which of the twins was Jaehaerys. So she had to give up her own son.
Just
terrifying. And we see her kind of realizing that like her family is crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to be queen anymore.
She doesn't want it. Like, she doesn't want it. She never wanted any of it. And like, when they force her to go out into the parade to parade her son around, you see like all the small folk are like, you know, crying for her and all this stuff. It makes her uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
And then we see also when they're then she sees it again when the small folk kind of turn on them and chase them out of the sept, out of the, is that what it's called, the sept?
Yeah,
the church.
Yeah.
The sept. And she's like, and the small folk are attacking her, and it's just everything that happened this season to her, like, was completely, like, she didn't deserve it. It was so sad.
And then
completely.
And then her brother basically trying to force her to be like, you know, I know this is what you can do, but, you know, we're dragon riders. Mom's not a dragon rider. We're going to go into battle. We got to protect the realm. And then she's just like, I love this moment. She finally stands up for herself and is like, no. It's like,
I'm not going to burn anybody.
Yeah. It's like, Aegon's going to be king again. And you're going to die, basically.
I loved that last conversation she had with Aemon, because that like scared him.
Oh yeah. He tried so hard to scare her back, and she's like, no.
She's like, it wouldn't change anything. Kill me. You know, your fate is set in stone. Like, kill me, but you're still gonna die too.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Beautifully
written, beautifully performed.
Yeah, Helaena, I think she's one of my favorite characters this season, because she's very much in the background, but what she says is just, it's so important to the series because of her being a dreamer.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
And I feel like that's just like an ongoing theme throughout this whole series. It's just like, you know, what kind of ruler are you going to be? Are you going to be a ruler of, you know, like fear-mongering, going off of instinct and just wanting to just get vengeance? Or are you going to be a ruler that's like for the people? And it was so cool seeing all these characters like struggle with that.
And the way that she even confronted Aemond and was like, was all of this worth it? Was killing your family worth, you know, the Iron Throne? Like, if we want to talk about, you know, themes, like Aemon, he was bullied his entire life, and he puts the blame on the bastard children, but his brother has been the leading bully his entire life. And that came to a head when in the brothel, when, you know, he kind of embarrassed him. And we see that Aemond is more twisted. Like, he just gets more twisted and twisted as they go, as he goes.
Doesn't like to be laughed at, doesn't like to be the joke.
When he's insulted, he destroys cities.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, there's nothing that this guy wouldn't do, and I think that he would have killed Aegon had Kristen Cole not
Walked
come
in.
in. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So his
Absolutely.
whole arc was, you could see him becoming, now as he gets more power, becoming more bold and trying to avenge his the wrongdoings to him as a kid.
Yeah. All right, so I think we hit all the themes on the head. What were some of your favorite moments in this season, like that just really stood out to you?
I mean, one of the ones we haven't really touched on, Winterfell. I mean, not Winterfell. The North. You know, seeing the Starks, seeing the Wall, seeing Castle Black, and getting to see Cregan Stark, and just being back with the Starks was really cool to see.
The emotion you feel whenever they play that Stark theme and that violin,
yes!
It's just like, oh my gosh, just heartstrings.
And then at the end, in the last episode, staying on the Starks, like when I saw their army marching through the Twins, like I got chills.
Oh yeah.
It felt like everything was coming together, all the armies are coming together, and then here come the Starks. Just, I got chills seeing them. Just all these Northmen who traveled south for Rhaenyra. That was a cool moment to see.
Absolutely.
Another of my favorite moments. Sea Smoke. Like, he was alone the whole time. Like, now it's confirmed Laenor's dead. But then we see him, like, he's like, nobody's gonna choose me. I'm choosing my rider. And then he goes and he chases down Adam of Hall. And he's like,
the shit out of him.
Scares the absolute shit out of him. And then is like, you're good enough, like, he like, I love all the memes that came out of it, and was like, oh yeah, you'll do. I smell the Velaryon on you.
Oh my god, that's the best part of the show. Obviously, is all the memes that come out after each episode.
Yes, and so getting Sea Smoke and seeing yet again another personality of a dragon. Just
like his son, just messing with bastards.
It was great. It was so great.
Let's see another.
There's so
kind
many
of touched on this. Yeah, it's really hard, especially in this this second season. There was just so many. I think there wasn't a dead episode that wasn't like, oh, they didn't really. That felt like a filler episode. So there's truly just a great moment almost in every episode. But one that really just stood out to me, this was like the whole turning point of the whole series, was, and we touched on it a bit, was the Battle of Rook's Rest, and see how big of, like, we knew how big dragons have on the impact of a battle, but seeing two dragons on opposing sides going at each other, just the devastation, and seeing this proud knight and warrior Sir Criston Cole basically being like, I ain't shit up against these dragons. None of my men are. We are dust at the feet of the dancing dragons. And just seeing him have that realization throughout that episode and throughout the rest of the season, it's like you ain't gonna turn anything unless you have a dragon on your side, which is why it became a fight for who has more dragon riders. And desperate times call for desperate measures, and that was just such a great moment for me. It was just like seeing these fully armored knights just being incinerated by dragonfire, and then seeing it also take out, and then also seeing just the pure size of Vhagar taking out Aegon's dragon and himself, and just leaving him in devastation. Just, it was nuts. I can't even think of it. It's just insane. It's just like, I can't wait to see where we go with these dragon fights in the next season.
Yeah, because like we saw Drogon and the other dragons like fighting like Drogon against the White Walkers, or even against Euron Greyjoy's fleet. Like, we've seen dragons in battle before, but this was completely different. Like, it was a dragon on dragon, and the collateral was the men. Like, nobody wins when dragons fight.
No, absolutely not. And like, that was
seeing Criston Cole. Yeah, because he was so cocky the whole season.
We got this.
The whole first season, he's so cocky. He thinks he's got all the power because Aemon has Vhagar, the most scary, biggest dragon in Westeros. But seeing him kind of just like, coming to the realization that he ain't shit up against dragons. Like,
you ain't shit up against a dragon.
His skill set Ain't shit
Oh, you're good with a sword?
against
How are
dragons.
you against a dragon? Oh, okay. Not good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sit your
Are you
small ass down.
fireproof? No, you're not
Mm.
fireproof. Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, that was a really good moment. Good job on remembering that one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. So speaking of criticisms and areas for improvement, there was obviously some fan clapbacks with a few of the episodes. What was one that stood back to you, and where do you agree or disagree with the criticisms and the room for improvement with the show?
I saw a lot of criticism online on how this season was boring. And I'm like, were we watching the same show? So I'd asked people to kind of elaborate on that, and they're like, there's just like so much talking, and like they feel like they're not really getting anywhere. And so I'd have to be like, well, this is kind of like, you need Rhaenyra's in turmoil and grief. She's dealing with that, and there were complaints that last season was so fast, and so they're slowing it down, and we get to see more of the politics. And that's what I would say when people would say that. I'd be like, well, this is more of like the politics season, like we're not gonna just go straight into battle of dragons and stuff after what happened last season. Like
there's a power struggle. Both sides are trying to avoid war. Struggle.
Exactly, and we see the aftermath of Aemon killing Luke, and we got to see that. I don't know how else to say it, but it was necessary to see that, and it's the build up. It is the build up, and
which is why I think season 3 is going to be insane.
It's gonna be insane, and maybe people would be like, "Oh, it's too fast now," I don't know, but I don't agree with the criticism that this is a boring season, because we got to see a deep dive into all of the political maneuvering, and then we got to see dragons. That's my whole thing. We got to see all the dragons.
All these characters, and there's so many characters in the series. Each one of these characters have to have an arc. So obviously we got to talk through it, not just fight through it. Some of these characters fight through it, and so yeah, I don't agree with the boring factor. I feel like if you're looking for a fast-paced, just action show, yes, this isn't for you. If you like a good slow burn, this is definitely your show.
This is what kind of Game of Thrones is. It is the game, it's.
Let's talk about betrayal.
Yeah, let's talk about the betrayal. Let's see it. Let's talk about all this stuff, and it's. I don't know. I just don't agree with it. It makes me irrationally angry, I think, when people are like, "Oh, this was a boring season." No.
I think the only way I'll meet them halfway is the finale. I'll say this. As many amazing moments there was, and this is just me being greedy and impatient, it's we have to wait a whole nother year for the next season. So it's just that's where we're ending with the huge buildup for all the battle, and we don't even get to see it. It's fine, okay, it is what it is. But that's the only way I'll meet them halfway. Otherwise, this season was phenomenal, and I cannot wait for season 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't even think of any other criticism I've seen online and talking to in real life.
I think a lot of people agree with you. There was too much of a Daemon tripping balls.
That was the biggest thing, and I will say that is one of the things I didn't like about this season. But it was just because I love Daemon, and
Matt Smith is incredible as this guy.
Exactly, and he's one of my I love Daemon, and just seeing him every time we went to Harrenhal, I just catch myself be like, oh,
here we go again.
How long is this gonna take? I was just waiting for him to stop tripping balls and waiting for the next scene to go back to Rhaenyra or Aemond or Aegon, literally anybody else. Yes. But Daemon. So just being a Daemon fan this season was hard. It was hard. We were going through it. So
again, I'm terrible at the names of all these characters because to me so many of them sound the same. The girl that was in charge of watching Rhaenyra's children.
Oh, Rhaena.
It was so hard watching Rhaena in this last episode, just being like, oh, this is what dehydration is. This is what sleeping in the cold is like, just chasing after this wild dragon.
And this wild... Let's talk about that wild dragon.
That was just hilarious.
He's so ugly, I love him.
Yes. He's so ugly, I want to die.
Like, when I saw him, he was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I thought Vermithor coming out of, like, the shadows behind Rhaenyra was terrifying. And then, him killing all the bastards. No. Child's
This
play.
wild little-
Because
this
once I
wild
saw this
feral
wild
dragon.
little thing, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Brother,
What
ew.
is that? like it was so terrifying. But then I got online and I saw all the memes. The internet is unmatched, and it's like, oh, he's so ugly, I love him.
I love him.
And I feel like I'm there now. Like, oh, he is ugly, and I do love him.
Agreed. So, final thoughts and rating for this season.
My final thoughts are, I really enjoyed this season. Better than season 1 for me. And I would give it, what are we rating? Out of 5? Out of 10?
Let's go out of 5.
Out of dragons?
Yeah.
I will
dragons.
give it I will give it 4 dragons.
Ooh.
And only because of Daemon's arc. It lost a whole point for me. But
Ooh.
any chance to be back in Westeros and any chance to get and see more dragons, I'm here for it. I'm not going to criticize it too harshly. So 4 out of 5 dragons.
Okay. Final thoughts, yes, definitely, I think better than season 1. And rating wise, 4 out of 5 dragons. The reason it's not a 5 is I'm spoiled. I am, what brings me back to this show every season, even with Game of Thrones, are just the epic battles. And I know we're going to get them all in season 3. So that's why I'm just so excited for season 3. So yeah, 4 out of 5 dragons, and that's where I'll leave it. So those were our final thoughts. Please comment below, tell us what you thought, and thank you so much for watching. We're out of here.
Dracarys!
We are done.